I totally forgot what I was going to talk about, or maybe it hasn't hit my brain yet. It was something that was on the edge of my brain, and I would talk about if I was spend enough time meditating. Uh, anyhow, there's a master class from a guy named, I think his name is Rob or Ron Finley, and he's a someone who lives in Los Angeles, in in one of the urban neighborhoods where there tends to be a lot of soil covered with trash and just kind of abused, not ever used, and he's trying to turn it into um, plant life, and he's trying to grow fruits and vegetables and all sorts of things, and plant trees that, according to him, will always produce fruit. Um, uh, and so, to get people off the dependency on products that might be destructive to them, and he's really going home about that. But there, why knock down a strong person who's going forward and leading people to solutions. He's driven, and it's on Masterclass, and it costs money. Um, I invested in a year of Masterclass, which is about $200, and I would say it's worth it considering what you might spend to get the same sort of value out of something like Audible, where you can get 3 credits to buy towards Audible books at $40, and Masterclass for 5 times as much. You get access to everything. It's a smorgasbord of every single of anybody who's on Masterclass, and that includes guys like LeVar Burton, Steve Martin, and what they're basically is they're giving away the crown jewels of what got them into becoming the successes that they are, and so they reveal those things. Um, and then you got Dead Mouse, and he says, I'm not giving you everything to do what I'm doing. I'm giving you the capability to do for yourself and make yourself a great musician, a great synth musician, and giving you the access to those tools, or to understand what tools you need in order to create good works. And so I believe that masterclass is a good thing. I wish I could comment back to the celebrities, but I can understand the reason why you wouldn't want to do that, and that's because of trolls. You don't want to. I mean, anything you could say to a celebrity or to even give a comment is really just going to fall thud, because um, they, in their mind, and their support circles, are all the support they need. They don't need extra support from the outside, because being accessible also means being accessible to those that would not offer them any creative uh, critique. It would, the hecklers. And so um, the outlet for doing such things is to make podcasts or create reviews. But if you really have an intent to do good, keep in mind that no matter what you say, you're really not going to have any effect over other people, and at worst, you're just going to ruin either the people's perception of you or of them, and that either way is going to be destructive. And I do it myself, and so I know that no matter what I think of others, and even if I expressed it, I probably have very little of effect on their capacity to change, or to be driven forward. They've got the energy, and they've got the fuel to go forward. They don't need someone like me. Um, I'm just here to give, like they do, some inspiration, and to, if I can at all possible, do this, and that is drive people forward. Um, Give them excuses of ways they can construct a defense to the words that have a need to tear them down. Because we all have that in our makeup. We have the little voices that want to tear us down, and it. I think it comes as a result of living and being of developing regret, even if you think that you don't have them, that it does exist. Everybody has regrets, and if you develop too much failure or regret, it can tear down your capacity to be the person that you are. And so you, to some degree, you have to realize there are things you can't change of yourself, and you have to relinquish control, to some extent, to permit other people to be forgiving of what you can't change. And there are people out there that have been destroyed by others, and they develop a thick skin. And if you try to say anything good for them or about them or anything, they can take it the wrong way, and then they end up turning and trying to destroy the other person. And I call it demon possession, because the demons, it's kind of like, hey, this person is trying to destroy another, and we can really help that person in that direction. So we'll give them all the fuel to permit the total destruction of other individuals. And I know this to be the case because I've experienced it of myself whenever I was playing video games like PlanetSide 2. That whenever I got frustrated, I'd turn on people, and then I would say a lot of stuff I didn't believe. And it's kind of like you have control over a car. Like you're controlling the car, you're driving it down a pathway, and then all of a sudden you lose control of the car, and you can kind of see the people you're going to run over, and you don't have access to brakes that will permit you to get out of the situation, which is destructive to others. And people who have been destroyed by others, or who have been hurt, or who don't want to deal with any more voices or messages that might destroy their character, will retaliate in such a way as to destroy the one that they think is giving them a bad critique, or it's kind of like if they experience anything that even remotely looks like abuse, then they will give back equal abuse, or 2 or 3 times more, because they've experienced it before. They've experienced abuse before, and it has hurt them. And so it's kind of like being like an animal that has wounds, and when and doesn't trust anyone, as a result of that, has lost the trust of others, because it's experienced the rare case that of because destruction is like a chain reaction. It's somebody gets destroyed by one person, then they become a destroyer against other people, and those people become destroyers. It's like an atomic bomb. It's a chain reaction, and it's kind of like you lose control of yourself. It's like your soul gets taken over by a demon, and later on, if you have recorded the conversation, no matter what you tell yourself, you're going to remember the small details of what you might have said to another person that was destructive, that was against your value system and all that. And there are some people that will not expose such vulnerabilities to others because they're afraid to be vulnerable. And and it tends to be the case when you're younger that you 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 avoid being perceived as vulnerable, of having vulnerabilities. But as you get older, you're able to expose your vulnerability, but not be subject to being destroyed by those vulnerabilities. That you have ways of coping with them, and and missing them in such a way that they don't have as much of an effect on you as they used to. Um, or at least that's the hope. Some people don't get to change that much, or don't haven't changed. I'm still relatively a young person, um, in an emotional sense. I have anger management issues, and I can understand what anger will do. And what I strive to do is that if I ever get into something that looks or smells like somebody um, trying to push back on me and trying to destroy my character and trying to say stuff like, I wish you just eat shit and die, which is what I got from a girl the other night. And I was like, you don't know me, so how can you say such things? And it's kind of like they use you as a punching bag. And so I kind of said to her, well, if it relieves you of stress to beat up on me, then beat up on me. And because I know that does relieve stress. And she didn't like that approach. She wanted to cause harm because she felt like she was harmed, or she misinterpreted what I had to say. And I just wasn't. If I didn't care, I wouldn't be talking about it now, after having talking about it earlier, um, this morning, because it happened less than a day ago. Um, I do take things to heart, but I don't let them destroy me. They do distract me. I mean, the demons do have some success in the area of distracting me. And that's Satan's number one tool, is distraction. It's distractions can't. It's hard to see them as good or bad, but in any case, it it takes you off course, and you risk running into a tree or something else, or running over somebody. And whenever you were really had the best intentions, you turn around and do something that's just super destructive, and then you fall into a pit of depression, and that you could be there for minutes, hours, days, weeks, years. I mean, there are people that do end up, you know, depressed. My friend Elaine Lucero said for a decade after she became paralyzed, or she thought she was paralyzed. All she needed was a bit of rehabilitation. Um, she would spend she spent for a decade kind of feeling sorry for herself, and then she got above it and moved forward. Um, and I've wasted as much time or even more um, dwelling on things that I thought I couldn't change. There are things that everybody has. There's things that you've got that even if you could change them, they're probably not going to change them in any day in the future to any speed. And I expose those to the world because if you ever get popular, then somebody can blackmail you for something. And if you give them all of the tools if you give them all of the, if you become super accountable and you just become intimate to the world, then the blackmail has zero effect or doesn't have much of an effect. And the world could develop a case based upon things you expose the vulnerabilities that you expose to the world, but they also have to understand that um, with with that will also come all the other things that I have to say that might be true that people are overlooking. And so, while it would destroy me probably as a person, it might cause me to. I'm not going to commit suicide over what the world thinks of me. And that's just an easy way out. And I've dealt with that concept. Um, that idea of kind of feeling like you just can't do anything right, and so the best thing to do is take the easy way out. The easy way out, I would probably only take it if I was in a lot of pain and discomfort, and I felt like there just wasn't any possible chance that I could get away from the pain. But there's people that are even stronger than that. I know a lady who had arthritis in her hands, caused her to lose fingers, and that never held back her happiness. And she had her first name was Joy, and her last name was Bush, Joy Bush, uh, and I think that's right, Joy Bush. She um, she was always very happy, and she sung out of tune. And she believed that even if you sung out of tune, if you didn't sing right, that God would actually see through that and see the effort and the desire to produce beautiful music, beautiful sounding music. It would be music to God's ears. It's not going to be music to other people's ears. And I saw it as a challenge, a necessary challenge to have some control over my ability to be on pitch, because it's very difficult if somebody's singing out of key and they're going all over the place and you're trying to remain on pitch. It's like trying to be solid in a storm, you know, and she's dealing with things of that nature too. I don't have any reason to work against anything that she is, because of her amount of joy and happiness. Um, you cannot possibly even fathom the idea of wanting to do anything to her that would be harmful, because she is already dealing with things that are harmful, but she doesn't permit that to keep her down. And she's somebody that, if you had been harmed in the past, she would help you find a way to deal with that and to rise above it. And I'm happy to have known people like that, because that's what inspires me to go forward and to not be easily affected. The solution to dealing with being harmed by others is not to harm others back, but to try to see if you can deflect that their needs to destroy you. Deflect it, kind of like if you're playing, if you had be learned judo. Judo is about controlling other people's. Um, it's about controlling the force of another to in a non-destructive way by forcing them in a different direction than to destroying you, but to being unsuccessful with every punch. And so judo is about controlling falls, because if you're running forward towards somebody, you don't really understand it, but you're trying to remain in control of your momentum, and in that is the vulnerability that you're always falling as you're moving forward. And if there's somebody that can control um, can control your motion, they can have you fall um, towards have you miss the mark and end up falling to the ground. And that's what judo does. And my father had judo whenever he was in the army, and it's not like karate. Karate has you are focused on deflecting, but also hurting the opponent. Not in a but it has varying degrees of destructiveness. Um, but judo is um, passive. It's like a pacifist form of martial arts, and so you're effectively doing a form of judo with people's needs to destroy you with words. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to see through that and realize that they are intent on destroying you because they're afraid they're going to get destroyed by you. And so they have this need to push you over. And you can stand in the way and give them that opportunity so that they can see that you get back up and give them that opportunity again, because you understand that it's helping them to cope, and also to see that applying the same kind of force um, isn't having as much of an effect on you as others had on them, and from that they can learn that the best approach for abuse is to for verbal abuse, not being physically abused, but verbal abuse and people's opinions, is to recognize that they're opinions and they're not opinions based in fact. When someone says something opinionative of you, that's going to hurt more than somebody doesn't know you, okay? And so it's going to be easier for you to deflect their intents to destroy you, okay? Through character assassination. And character assassination is all the tools by which you try to pull and rip apart somebody's persona, their self-respect, their self-confidence, all that stuff that's your people try to rip and tear away at that whenever they're afraid to be vulnerable, they have vulnerabilities and they're afraid to be hurt whenever you have no intent to hurt them, unless you reciprocate their their frustration and deliver back the same frustration. you you're not benefiting them, and you're not benefiting yourself by overcoming the situation, and everybody ends up on one end or the other. But the best side is the side of trying to deflect the comments and then get the other party to realize that they are intent on destroying you whenever you have no intent to destroy them, and that for every blow they they try to land on you, it falls thud to the side, and what comes back to them is not a judge of their character, but is an attempt to try to get them to realize that you mean no harm, and also to possibly give a idea of what it is that you're seeing coming towards you whenever they're trying to destroy you. And another thing I realized is that the venue that I was in was not one where people could develop trust, and that is on a web porn webcam service where men came in to make women do things um, that were not benefiting them of any good reputation, or of any confidence. Or it's kind of like you're selling who you are and your soul to be abused by others, and that's kind of what it does. And so there are women that will sit there in those positions ready to destroy the men that come in, who they assume, but in our right, for a good percentage of them, um, are destructive and not well concerned or anything about the person on the other end. That it ends up being like that certain there's a certain joint in Chicago where people go to get hamburgers, but an attribute of that diner is that they can launch slurs, even racial slurs, against the black people behind the counter, and the black people behind the counter know that these people will tip them big in order to launch a racial slur, and they'll take it, and they've realized that they've been able to push their children through college by just building a thick skin and letting these white Chicago people launch really this really thin and ineffective racial slurs. You know, it's sad that things like that happen, but that it's a form of it's a form of offloading. The thing, there are a lot of white people that are afraid of black people, and when they launch something like a racial slur, it's not their desire to hurt black people, it's their desire to see if what they believe to be about black people, that the racial slurs will get them killed. And in places where the black people are strong enough to stand up to those racial slurs that won't turn around and try to destroy the white people, the white people will start to identify with the person on the other end and start to see that they're stronger than they are, and I mean personally stronger, and hopefully will start to develop a profound respect for the one on the other end, that they're dropping, you know, childish, you know, childish negative slurs. I mean, just you're launching something that's that is not, that the other one's not deserving of. You're trying to hurt them, and they have no intent for you to be hurt, but because you feel vulnerable, you feel like they could hurt you. um, they would never in their wildest dreams ever mention anything that sounds like a racial slur, because they're afraid to be beat up by a horde of black people. And when that doesn't happen, then they might start to understand that the people on the other end are more empathetic towards them than they are the other way, and that they need to reciprocate that empathy, and give empathy back, and try to heal the pain and the suffering that is generated from from a false perception. And so that's the same thing that happened to me with this young lady, was that I was trying to be creative in how I was um how I was thinking that I was being productive. Whenever she heard it, it sounded like a slur, and took it really wrong, and was quite intent. It just multiplied. It's like everything that just pisses her off about people that abused, that they're abusive, just come out of her like a big angry mob. And but I I don't know. I wouldn't say that I'm strong enough to resist that, because I will spend time later thinking about it. And if I didn't think about it, I wouldn't be concerned or caring about the situation. Because somebody who's not concerned will blow them off, and in their mind they will paint a picture that the person that was attacking them was deserving of attack, and would not consider them ever again. See? And that's someone who's concerned is someone who will sit there and contemplate what transpired, and to try to find some sort of inkling of solace, or cathartic, or I mean, not really catharsis, but trying to deal with that, maybe learn from it and see what could be done better the second time around, or the third time around, or and you can imagine somebody being drunk and coming in and wanting to say something good, and it comes out wrong. You know, that's one reason why I believe alcohol should be outlawed. I mean, the problem with alcohol being outlawed is it's just too easy to make. And then they outlaw drugs that are less of a harm, such as marijuana, which is really just a high level weed. It's it grows well, and so why is it harder to hold back alcohol when marijuana is much easier to cultivate than the brewing of alcohol? I think the brewing of alcohol is probably maybe more work, requires more industry, whereas the cultivation of marijuana is less. And the thing with marijuana is it's not destructive to your body like cigarettes or alcohol. And I guess our government prefers substance abuse that will lead to the destruction of the individual and their families, and they're really not that concerned about substances that might permit you to remain in control, even though it seems you shouldn't have control. And there are people that are able to control situations even whenever they've had a small amount of marijuana. Because what the marijuana does is it makes them feel just a little bit more joyful and um, inebriated to a little bit inebriated to the effects of the sharpness of the world, and it tends to make people a little more mellow, and it also permits them to sleep, this is all stress relief. Now, alcohol could do the same thing, but it's still destructive to your organs. Marijuana is not, and at least that's what I've been told. I've been told also that even steroid abuse is not as destructive to a person as alcohol abuse. There are people that are living with steroids and using lots of steroids, and you would think they'd be dead by now, but the fact is that steroids do boost your system, the performance of your system. It can boost your immune system. There are people who have HIV that are taking steroids to fight the effects of HIV by boosting the immune system. And people's perception that steroids cause cancer is all based upon particular stories where people were misdiagnosed as having misdiagnosed for that they had cancer, and it was a result of steroid abuse. Whenever steroid abuse doesn't have a tendency to, or the use of steroids doesn't have a tendency to encourage cancer, because of the way, I guess, the way that steroids work. And so we tend to misinterpret and misinform ourselves, even in the best of intent. And it's because we're too eager to be successful and not eager enough to try to research, to research and know the attributes of pretty much anything that we might develop positive outcome. Well, I'm going to cut this off because I'm starting to fall asleep to some degree, and I promised my mom I would unload the dishwasher, and I didn't really get all that much sleep. And I could fall asleep, and I know the stupid iPad, if it reaches into the hours, it will corrupt the video file. So I'm going to have to stop this now.